We write down that a system must handle a certain load. We write down that it must respond within a certain time, that it must be available a certain fraction of the year, that it must be secure. Those are non-functional requirements, and we design against them from the start. Cost is a non-functional requirement too, in exactly the same sense, and it is the one nobody writes down. No design document says this feature must cost less than this to run. So cost is the only major property of a system that is never a requirement, never a constraint, and never designed for, and then everyone is surprised when it is bad. You do not get properties you did not ask for. This finale is about asking. Most companies do eventually notice the bill and start a program, and most of those programs are theater, and it is worth being precise about why, because the failure is structural rather than lazy. Showback shows each team its costs and changes nothing, because seeing a number you are not accountable for is just information. Chargeback bills each team its costs and often makes things worse, because now teams game the accounting instead of fixing the architecture. A central FinOps team is created, and it can see everything and change nothing because it does not own the code, and the people who own the code do not own the cost. In every version, the same thing is missing. The person who can change the design and the person who feels the bill are different people, and no dashboard closes that gap. So the fix is not a dashboard, it is moving the cost to the moment of the decision. When you write down an architectural decision, the trade-off section already lists performance, complexity, operational burden. Add cost as a first-class line next to the others. This option is simpler and costs more to run. This one is more complex and cheaper. Here is the rough monthly shape of each. You do not need a precise figure, and precision would be false anyway. You need the order of magnitude to be present in the room while the choice is reversible, because that is the only moment it is cheap to change. Cost that shows up on a bill is an audit. Cost that shows up in the decision record is a design input. Same number, and the difference between them is everything. And there is one number that turns a bill from a threat into a decision, which is unit economics. Not what does this cost, but what does this cost per thing, cost per tenant, cost per transaction, cost per active user. A total is frightening and unactionable, but a unit cost is a business fact you can reason about, because you can compare it to what that unit earns you. Suddenly, you can see that this customer segment is unprofitable at the infrastructure level, or that this feature costs more per use than anyone imagined, or importantly, that your cost per transaction is falling as you grow, which means your architecture scales economically and you should stop worrying and ship. Without the denominator, cost is just a scary number. With it, cost is strategy. And I want to end the practical part on the least expected note, because a series about cost that only ever says cut will have taught you the wrong reflex. Sometimes the right architectural decision is to spend more. Paying for a managed service instead of running your own can be cheaper once the salaries of the people maintaining it are counted, and those salaries are the cost that never appears on the cloud bill. Over-provisioning a little to protect a launch is sometimes exactly correct. Cost is not a thing to minimize. It is a thing to decide deliberately with the value on the other side of the scale. The goal was never the smallest bill. A company with the smallest possible bill has probably stopped shipping. The goal is that every significant number on it corresponds to a choice somebody made on purpose. So that is architectural economics. The bill is a diagram. Idle is waste you can see. Egress and storage are designed in. Compute is a curve with a crossing. Discounts are bets. Cost is a runtime signal. And ownership is the thing that makes any of it real. Because every technique in this series dies the moment cost is nobody's job. Read your bill backwards into your architecture, put the price in the decision, and measure the unit, not the total. Do that, and the bill stops being a monthly surprise and becomes what it always was: your architecture, with the prices finally showing. The full series is linked below. See you in the next one.